9/11, New York. A city under attack. The ESU, the Elite Emergency Service Unit, springs into action.
The saying is, when the people need help, they call the police. When the police need help, they call ESU, the E-Men.
Their mission was to rescue people any way possible.
We did try to attempt a rooftop rescue. We got really, really close to that roof.
This building is starting to collapse down on top of all of us. But there was no way I could go home knowing that I left somebody there to die and didn't do my best to get them out.
On 9/11, the ESU faced its ultimate challenge. Never-before-seen images tell for the first time the incredible story of these E-Men heroes and the lives they saved. In the late 1990s, there were 38,000 police officers in New York. Just 1 in 100 made it into the NYPD's Emergency Service Unit.
The Emergency Service Unit, we're the SWAT and the rescue team. It's an elite group of highly trained, highly motivated individuals who work together as one cohesive unit. We've handled train crashes, people jumping off of buildings and bridges, hostage jobs, barricades, you name it, we've taken care of it.
There is a very strong sense of brotherhood because we are a small unit, because we work very close with each other. You get to know each other. You get to know each other's families. You bond with these guys. You depend on these guys for you to look after them and for them to take care of you. And that's what it's all about, taking care of one another.
Guys are pretty good. Guys, once you start getting the experience, we can pretty much handle anything that comes along. So you happen to be listening to the traffic channel or whatever, you hear something come over, you just go, you respond, and you go do it.
But on 9/11, the E-Men would be pushed to the breaking point. At 8:46 a.m., hijacked American Airlines Flight 11 smashes into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. The course of history is changed forever. ESU men on duty hear the news within seconds.
We were out in Queens visiting one of the trucks when the transmission came over. So at that point, we got in the vehicle and started heading from Queens into Manhattan.
8:52 a.m. As the ESU cops grab any vehicle they can find to get to the World Trade Center, an NYPD helicopter is scrambled to investigate the burning tower. Pat Walsh pilots the chopper. Co-pilot, Detective Timothy Hayes, is alongside him.
I had responsibility for coordinating with people on the ground, with air traffic control and emergency service. Pat was just keeping the aircraft pretty much at a stable altitude, nice and slow, so we can just observe. And at one particular point, I just happened to glance out the left window, and I saw something over Staten Island that didn't look right, and it looked like another airplane. And as it was getting closer and closer, I realized it was at the same altitude as us. I said, Jesus, Pat, this plane's gonna hit us. Pat just pulled power, he started to climb, and we looked down, and so this huge commercial airliner doing 600-700 miles an hour flying right underneath us. We looked to the right, I mean, it was within seconds. It just disappeared right into the South Tower.
Hijacked United Airlines Flight 175 slams into the South Tower at 9:03 a.m. This is disaster on an unprecedented scale. On the street below, ESU officer Kenny Winkler's first instinct is to save lives.
Looked up, saw a huge fireball, lots of debris. I happened to look to my right, and I saw a woman standing in the middle of Church Street, staring up, and I just grabbed her, and we ducked behind an ambulance as the debris started raining down around us.
Kenny Winkler is in charge of organizing the ESU, wearing their distinctive blue helmets into rescue teams. He establishes a command post on the edge of the World Trade Center. Team 1 heads into the North Tower, making its way to a stairway. The massive explosions had knocked out the elevators in both towers. The only way up is to climb one of 3 stairways in each tower.
My plan was, as people were reporting to me, I was assigning them to teams. I know I have 2 teams in the North Tower. I'm going to put a team in the South Tower, North Tower, until I get 6 teams climbing those stairs.
ESU trucks race against time to get to the command post. E-men are used to battling through traffic to save lives. But when the second airliner crashes into the World Trade Center, every one of them now knows this is no accident. America is under attack.
When I got down to the scene and you looked up and you saw, I can say that, I've done a lot of things in my career as a police officer. That was the one day that I was truly afraid.
Evan Schwerner, seen here on the left, has been in the ESU for over 3 years.
It was a sick feeling. Somebody's actually attacking our country. You kind of make peace with yourself and listen, I got to go. It's my job. We're going to go in. If we come out, we come out. But we got to go try to help people. That's our job.
Mark DeMarco arrives on Vesey Street and immediately gets to work.
When I first pulled up, somebody had yelled to me. They said, there's a guy laying on the sidewalk over here and he's in bad shape. I ran over to him. His back was like raw meat, but he was conscious. Brian McDonald had come running over to me. I said, we got to get the first aid kit and a scoop stretcher. We were trained to rescue people, but this was on such a large scale, you couldn't comprehend what was going on. So you just kind of had to focus what was in front of you.
We started gathering up all our equipment to put it on, our helmet, rope, harnesses. We were gathering equipment that we were going to need to help the people. And you'd see the people that were there hanging out, and we were used to saving these people, if they were jumpers. And I just looked up and I remembered, I said, I wish I could help you, but there was nothing I could do because the fires were down below them.
Lieutenant John Murphy is assigned to lead the ESU officers arriving from the Bronx in Team 5.
I had worked in the Bronx with these guys, so they were kind of happy to see me, and I was happy to see them going into this scene with guys that I knew and was comfortable with.
But the job ahead of them is daunting. The magnitude of the attack on the 2 vast towers turns the plaza into a battlefield. If they are to rescue people from the towers, they must first avoid being hit by debris raining down like shells. Cameras catch Team 5 heading into the World Trade Center.
As we came out onto the plaza, there were still pieces of building coming down, pieces of the aircraft were coming down, and also pieces of people were coming down. And it almost seemed surreal because we had literally body parts hitting the plaza, and it looked almost like a butcher shop, just looked like pieces of meat. We were trying to use the overhangs of the buildings, and we would spot for each other as we were making our way across the plaza. So if it looked clear, we would call out, and basically you'd run to the next point where you could possibly get some cover.
An ESU team is scrambled to carry out an air rescue. They hope to pluck people from the rooftops of the burning towers. But as Bill Kennedy and his team fly toward the infernos, the chance of saving anybody is fast running out.
We did focus our energies on the North Tower because we could still see the roof. There was a possibility maybe if somebody made it to the roof. We had a very short window of opportunity if somebody was on that roof, but there was nobody on that roof. And the window of opportunity closed really quickly with the amount of smoke and the heat that was being generated from that fire. But you had people looking at you. people who were restaurant workers, people who were office workers in their suits, people who could have been your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, waving to you, looking at you, waving to you, and you can't do nothing to help them. It was a horrible feeling of not being able to do anything.
With rooftop rescues out of the question, everything depends on the emergency services unit teams making their way up from the ground. At 9:40 a.m., Kenny Winkler calls to his 4 teams in the towers.
At that point, I get everybody on the radio. Where are you and who are you with? We had Sergeant Coughlin's team, Sergeant Gillis's team, Sergeant Curtin's team. Everybody's responding back to me where they were. And I remember the response from Sergeant Coughlin and Sergeant Gillis's team were in the South Tower, that they were in the 20-something floor heading up, and they were having a difficult time making it up the stairs because of all the people in the stairwell.
The stairs are the only way for the thousands of people below the fires to evacuate the buildings. But unlike this training video, progress up and down the stairways is alarmingly slow. 9:50 a.m. Sergeant Mike Curtin is leading Team 3. It includes fellow officers John Delara and Joe Vigiano. He picks Mark DeMarco to join them. They are assigned to climb Stairway C of the North Tower.
As we were making our way up the stairs, people were still evacuating coming down. It was just a constant flow. It was like swimming against the tide, so to speak, pushing past everybody. When we reached the 9th floor, people who were coming out into the staircase, they said, there's a woman inside. She's unable to move. She was very upset. She was overwhelmed with everything going on. So the 5 of us walked over to her. Mike Curtin was giving her some water. Me and Steve Blyer, we told Sergeant Curtin, so we're going to do a sweep of the whole floor. And me and Steve went to get a drink, because there was a water cooler. And as we went to take a drink, we heard this rumbling start.
It is 9:59 a.m. The South Tower has been burning for almost an hour. Temperatures of nearly 2,000 degrees are gravely weakening its steel structure.
I heard a roar, and this noise was so loud that it overtook the rotor of the helicopter. And it just seemed like that tower, it just started churning. And as it started churning, you started seeing dust and debris coming up out of it.
Team 5 is out on the plaza, 110 stories below.
As we were working our way over to Tower 1 and looked up, and it looked like a wave of just black and gray coming from the South Tower.
It was the most deafening, horrible noise I've ever heard. I couldn't believe just the sound of it coming down. I mean, being right there.
At that point, we turned and we tried to run. The ground underneath our feet was just bouncing and buckling. And as we were making our way, it literally lifted us off the ground and blew us into the wall.
I know the size of those buildings. I know how many people work in those buildings. All these poor people who are guilty of nothing but just coming to work, gone.
It's gone! The whole tower! It's gone! Holy crap! They knocked the whole freaking thing down!
Gone also are the 2 teams of E-men on the 20th floor of the South Tower. They died instantly, doing their job, trying to rescue people. The plaza is now covered in a mass of rubble under a dense cloud of toxic dust.
At that point, we were in complete darkness. As it was happening, I was kind of surprised that I was still alive at that point.
We had our self-contained breathing apparatus on, but I didn't have enough time to don it. I was breathing out of my glove. I was using it kind of like a filter over my mouth and my nose, just trying to breathe in like that. I pulled off a golf ball size of this mix of glass and debris out of my mouth. And it was at that point I was like, well, I don't think I'm going to make it through.
Incredibly, all of Team 5 survives, protected by the building seen here on the right.
We kind of felt along the ground, got together, felt for our tools, and we could see a little bit of light starting to break through, maybe about 8 feet up. And we kind of just worked our way towards the light and crawled up the debris pile and back out onto the plaza.
The man in charge, Kenny Winkler, also survives. Now he urgently needs to speak to the teams in the North Tower.
I was able to duck behind one of the trucks, and immediately, as the dust was blowing through the streets, radioing the teams in the North Tower to evacuate.
Kenny said everybody in tower wanted to evacuate. Evacuate immediately. He says, get the hell out of there now.
It is a vital communication. No one in the North Tower stairways realizes the other tower has just collapsed. Team 1 is on the 33rd floor. They can make a rapid descent as there are no more civilians in their stairway. But progress is much slower for Team 3 on the 9th floor. Many evacuees still need to be led down Stairway C. The E-men stick to their job.
I had gone down to the bottom of the staircase. It was the second floor lobby, which was level with the outdoor plaza. As the people were coming down, I would just direct them. I'd say, follow the wall line, because it was very cloudy, dusty. And as they would come out, I would direct them to stay along the wall. When you get to the doorway, I said, run. I said, don't panic. Try not to panic. I said, just run from the site.
People emerge onto the plaza, but escape is difficult in the lingering dust cloud. ESU Team 5 gets to work.
They'd come out, they go, where do we go? So we spread out like a human chain of, emergency service police officers. I'm like, go to the next cop over there, he'll show you where to go. They were very distressed, they were crying, and we were just trying to calm them down as quickly as we could and send them off to the next cop in order to get them out.
At that time, I'm kind of in communication with my guys and, helping people, but also keeping an eye on where my team is, just because I wanted to keep everyone where I could see them. When I got hit by a piece of steel coming off the North Tower, I was actually talking into my radio at the time, and it clipped the top of my helmet, knocked my helmet off, and the next thing I knew, I didn't even feel it, but my radio was gone, and my hand was hanging and dangling, and arterial blood was just spurting out.
John Murphy's hand is saved by the quick actions of Steve Lanos. ESU teams always include an E-man trained as a medic to aid civilians and officers alike. 10:23. No more evacuees are emerging from the stairways. Team 3 is finally exiting the North Tower. But though time is fast running out, Sergeant Curtin wanted his men to keep searching as they go.
We had crossed over the plaza area from building 1 to 6. Sergeant Mike Curtin told me and Bill Bury, check the lobby first, make sure everybody's evacuated out of this lobby in building 6, and then we'll get the hell out of here.
(10:28). The North Tower is about to collapse, but 2 teams of E-men are still below.
We were walking toward the West Street bridge overpass, and I started to hear this rumbling again. Turned, I looked out the lobby windows, and everything was getting dark very, very quick, in a matter of seconds. I dove for the floor. I said to myself, this is it, I hope it goes quick.
I said, I've already been through this once before. I said, what's the chances of me surviving a second collapse?
Steel screeching, just bending, and looking up, seeing again just a big black wave coming down out of the sky.
There was a little cubby hole where I went into, and I said, all right, I'll be here, I'll be safe from anything that's going to collapse down on me.
There was a truck on the corner where we were, just kind of ran and dove behind it and underneath it.
As quick as everything happened, everything went dead silent. Everything was black. And for a second, I said to myself, this is what death is? Am I dead? I went to breathe, and I started choking on the dust and everything. And although I'm choking on gas for air, I'm saying, well, that's a good sign, too. I guess I'm still alive.
Here, in the devastation of the World Trade Center, David Brink and Team 5 survive by hugging the wall of the plaza.
I was very scared. I was choking so hard, I actually thought I was going to drown in all the smoke and debris that was getting into my mouth and lungs. But I was like, all right, I'm still alive. However, we have to get out of this situation now. So you want to put your training to good use to try to get yourself out of that situation, get yourself unburied.
Many people die in the 11 seconds it takes for the North Tower to collapse. Unbeknownst to their brothers at the time, the ESU has lost 4 men: John Delara, Joe Vigiano, Vinnie Dans, and Sergeant Mike Curtin. 10:40 a.m. The ESU command post is in crisis. Many of the officers on the scene are not responding. It is Kenny Winkler's job to find out who is still alive.
We were trying to raise all of our team members over the radio, knowing very well that someone never going to answer. I also had people trapped, so we were in the process of forming rescue teams to go rescue the rescuers.
The E-men are stretched to the limit. While some are rescuing civilians, others are trapped in the ruins of the World Trade Center. The 4 E-men killed when the North Tower collapsed were from Team 3. But the remainder of the team, Mark DeMarco, Bill Bowery, and Steve Blyer, survived. They were lucky. They were searching the customs house when the avalanche of debris came down. But they aren't safe yet. The building that saved them is filled with thick, acrid dust.
I started yelling out, and I could hear other people yelling out, Billy, where are you? Mark, where are you? And you could hear other people, over here, over here, over here. You all right? Yeah.
Mark starts to lead the 3 of them along the wall seen here in this photograph.
I put my hand up on the wall, and I pulled my mag light out, and I put my hand, I felt like a doorway. Take another step, and I couldn't feel the floor. Past my shoes, I didn't see anything. I could see debris where I was standing, but just beyond that, it was total blackness. I waved my foot around to see if there was anything to step on, and I didn't feel anything.
Mark is standing on the edge of the vast chasm created by the collapsed tower. But Bill and Steve are still moving forward behind him.
I'm pushing back to keep these guys from pushing me forward, maybe falling into whatever this was. And I'm yelling, stop pushing, stop, we gotta go back the other way. And we made it back almost all the way to where the glass doors were for the West Street overpass walkway.
By 11 o'clock, fires are breaking out on West Street. As fresh E-men arrive, the survivors of Team 3 are spotted on the terrace of the customs house. They are helped down onto street level and hosed with water to remove the dust. A rescue of the rescuers.
We were outside. I want to say we were breathing fresh air and shaking our heads in a state of shock. A couple of guys were hugging each other. For the first time since this whole thing started, I felt safe. I felt it was over. I was able to go home. I was able to see my kids grow up.
The debris from the destruction of the two vast towers is spread out over a vast area. Dust and smoke add to the disorientation of those moving through the streets. But Team 5 manages to make its way out from the depths of the catastrophe.
I was very, very relieved that I had come through it, literally unscathed. I was very surprised that I made it through the first collapse. And after the second collapse, the same thing. It was a miracle that we had survived.
Me and Bobby were sitting on the ground by a police vehicle, cleaning ourselves off. And he was pretty banged up. His elbows were shot. We were drained. Everything was out of us.
To their superiors, though, Team 5 is missing in action, feared dead.
We heard a lot of radio transmissions that were coming over our portable radios looking for us. Team 5, status report, where are you guys? And we didn't answer them. We were just too busy trying to breathe, and we were hacking.
We saw Franco Barbario, and he's like, you guys got to check in because they think you're dead. I remember him saying that to us. You got to go. You got to get over there now because they got to account for you.
A roll call reveals 14 E-men are unaccounted for. Nearly half of those at the World Trade Center that morning. As fresh ESU teams arrive, they know they need to act fast. Time is critical for any survivor buried in the vast pile of destruction.
We were searching everywhere we possibly could, pushing the limits, certainly pushing the limits of any kind of safety procedures there were. We're just non-existent, throw them out the window. We needed to find people, and we needed to find people quick.
The first thing that we did was say, well, where is the best chances of success? And we said, well, we got to start looking for voids, and that's what we did. The thing is still moving. The earth is moving. It's on fire. There's smoke billowing out of these voids.
We had access to the Kaloa Concourse, so there were areas like where the Borders bookstore was, where there were escalators, where we were able to go down. We were able to go down to where the subway was. Or to areas where pieces of steel had crossed, where you could get underneath. And you were able to get to a certain point where you had a complete collapse. You were able to identify floors. Each floor was compacted to probably a space of 12 to 16 inches. And so you couldn't penetrate that with just simple hand tools. But where we could get in, we would take a look. You always have that hope in the back of your mind that there is a survivor in a void.
But as the afternoon ticks away, the news is not good.
We found plenty of body parts, and we found people that were deceased, but we didn't find anybody that was alive. That was probably one of the hardest things that we were faced with.
The hours pass. Buildings damaged by the collapsing towers burn ferociously into the evening. Despite the danger, E-men continue with their painstaking search. But still, the elite rescuers find no survivors. Then at 8 o'clock, news. 2 Port Authority cops have been found, alive but trapped. The E-men set off to do their job. It is the start of one of the most remarkable rescues in the history of New York. Cops Will Jimeno and John McLaughlin are trapped 30 feet inside the pile. The first E-men to get to the scene are officers Patty McGee from the Bronx and Scott Strauss from Long Island. They are about to embark on the most dangerous mission of their lives.
I'm on my knees in this small hole, and the hole we're in, the area around us is on fire. The smoke is billowing up at us. And as I'm climbing down this hole head first on an angle about 30 feet down, I'm saying goodbye to my kids and my wife, to myself. I told my wife, Pat, that I loved her. I told my kids to take care of Mom, to do the best they possibly could do in life, and I apologize for getting myself killed. I said that to myself as I'm climbing down the hole because I didn't think I was coming out. We were in a very, very confined area, and it was kind of like a horseshoe. We get to this wall, and then on a horizontal platform is Will. He's laying on his back, and the only thing we can see of him is his head. His right arm is free, and part of his right side. Everything else is encased in rubble. We can't see each other at times. Even though I'm right next to Will's head, I can't see him because of the choking smoke.
Here at the scene of the rescue, many emergency workers want to help. But the tunnel is so restricted, it is only possible for one rescuer to be next to Will Jimeno at a time. If the E-men are going to get him out, they have to make the space bigger. Scott is assisted by paramedic Chuck Sirica.
You can only stay clawing at Will with your bare hands for about 15, 20 minutes. And then I would back out, Chuck would go in. Chuck would come out, I would go in, until we got this opening a little bit bigger.
The rescuers call out for hand tools.
We basically formed a sort of like a conga line between the emergency service cops and firemen and everybody that was there. And anything that Patty or Scotty needed, they were radioing to me, and we were getting the equipment up to them.
They passed a set of these extended straps. I wrap it around Will's chest and under his arms, and I'm trying to pull Will out. I can't do it. I don't have the strength. I don't have the leverage. I yell for some help. Chuck comes in, and Chuck and I are chest to chest in this opening, no bigger than the area beneath the chair I'm sitting on. And we have our hands above our heads, we're laying on our sides, and we're trying to pull Will out, trying to yank him out. And he's screaming in pain.
Conditions are extreme. Firemen fear the burned-out buildings could come down at any moment. For those deep within the pile, there would be no chance of escape. It is an incredible test of endurance, way beyond the call of duty. After the collapse of the South Tower, Kenny Winkler sets up a new command post at the corner of West and Vesey Streets. But back on the plaza, Evan Schwerner is having problems.
This one woman comes out, she's extremely heavy, about 300 pounds, and she couldn't go anymore. And I'm trying to help her, and she just wouldn't get up. She says, I can't do it, I can't go on. I'm like, you have to, because we're gonna die. We gotta get out of here. And that's when Richie Hardigan came looking for me. So I go, Richie, you gotta help me with this woman, she's not moving. He looked right at her, and in the way Richie does, he just tried to motivate her and screamed at her and goes, get the F up, we gotta go. So he gets on one side of her, and we're walking out with her, and at that point, we took her and we bring her down the stairs, and we handed her off to a female Port Authority cop.
The area topside was just as bad as the area in that hole. That hole, that debris pile was shifting, it was on fire, it was continually moving, and there was a point where the rescuers above us and the firemen were saying, guys, get out of there. And this building is starting to collapse down on top of all of us. So they're yelling to us to get out of there. And Will says, you're not leaving me, are you? I go, no, we're not leaving you, Will. You know, whatever it is, you know. One way or another, we're getting you out. Did I want to go? You better believe I did. But I couldn't, because there was no way I could go home and look at my kids and look at myself in the mirror, knowing that I left somebody there to die and didn't do my best to get them out.
Scott Strauss and Chuck Sirica hold their nerve for one more try to free the entombed cop.
Chuck is stretching one arm down and trying to get his body, three of us, into a hole that's not fit for one person. And Will is screaming, absolutely screaming. Sorry, Will, sorry, Will. And he's like, just do it, just do it, just do it. Don't worry about me. And we free his leg, and we hoisted him out, and Will's free.
It is 11 o'clock at night. The rescue of Will Jimeno has taken 3 hours. Scott Strauss emerges exhausted from the hole. His job is done. But as he makes his way down the pile, he is afraid to tell his fellow E-men what he's discovered.
Scotty Strauss came up, obviously very fatigued, dehydrated. And Scotty told me, you know, Kenny, John McLaughlin's down there. And we knew John McLaughlin. We had trained with John. We had trained not that long ago at the World Trade Center. So I said, okay, Scotty, you guys get out of here. You know, we got it.
Emotions are high as they pass the rescued cop down the pile. After so much death, it is an important success for all those in emergency services.
When we got Willie out, he had to be physically passed through everybody, and everybody got to kind of, you know, to hold on to him as he goes down. So it was truly an uplifting thing. And he was in very bad shape, but knowing that he was alive was an amazing thing.
But the job is only half done. Sergeant John McLaughlin is trapped even deeper in the pile. He is seen here before setting off to lead his team to the South Tower. They never made it. But having miraculously survived 2 collapses, he managed to hang on to life, buried under tons of mangled metal and concrete. By the time ESU medic John Bushing descends into the rescue hole, Sergeant McLaughlin has been trapped for 14 hours.
When I got to the end of this tunnel, there was John McLaughlin, and he was face down, just buried from his waist down when I had gotten to him. He was conscious. He said he was in extreme pain from his waist down, and just get him out as quickly as we could. What we wanted to do was to keep him hydrated so that his kidneys kept working, and we wanted to keep him as comfortable as he could be with the morphine, but only one person at a time could be with him. So while I was doing medical care, nobody was digging him out.
A refreshed Bill Kennedy comes back on duty at midnight.
I took up the position as the team safety officer at this point, and what we would do is I would make sure that whatever 2 guys went down that hole, I'd cut them off in 10 or 15 minutes, get them out of the hole. And these guys, as we started rotating people in, they just started coming. They just started showing up, and everybody was taking pieces of metal, pieces of debris, cutting things with cordless saws, or using little rabbit tools to take whatever. Each little piece of debris that you were slowly able to remove revealed more and more of his body. It was a slow, painstaking effort to get to John McLaughlin, but it worked.
John McLaughlin is finally brought out at 7 o'clock the next morning. With great skill, the E-men managed to save his legs and his life. The rescue of the 2 cops is an extraordinary achievement. Despite the tragedies of 9/11, the day saw many acts of great courage. ESU teams were awarded medals of valor for the part they played in rescuing survivors. But memories of 9/11 hold more than honor for the E-men of New York.
The brotherhood was very, very strong amongst all of us. And the guys that we lost that day It was like a big crack in that brotherhood. Guys that wouldn't come back, and it was just left a big void in all of our lives.
My men and the other guys in the unit, they knew there was a job to be done. They knew it was dangerous. They knew that they might not be coming out. And 14 of the guys from the unit didn't come out again. But the other guys put themselves in harm's way without even thinking about it to help other people. So that makes me very proud of the unit and the men that I work with. Yes.